Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a double top 16 breakdown for two events that happened around the world this past weekend. We have TAK's Oceania August Treasure Cup, as well as the Treasure Cup that was held for the Latin American region as well. So pretty good events in the sense that we do see a little bit more variety than the Treasure Cup that happened in North America this past weekend. So for better or for worse, I know some people are just on the red trade and some people are off the red train, but we're going to go over both these events and both lists, and just also I do want to mention a couple things. First, if you guys want any of these lists, they're on my website, which is linked in the description below, as well as just huge thanks to Double Sleeved for doing the Twitch VODs for this, as well as for just providing all these lists. So I would not be able to make this part of it without them, so really appreciate that. And then also, I currently do not have the first place list. If that changes, I'll update the site and I'll put a comment for this video too, but just currently not available, not in this video. So that's what we got for that one. But looking at the TAK event, we do have 16. So 4 Law, 4 Zoro, and 4 Newgate. I think these are generically the three that are the best leaders in the game, at least statistically, with Law taking this one, which Law hasn't been doing as well post-restriction list, but was able to squeak it out for this one. You also had 2 whole Namis, as well as a Charlotte Linlin and a Crocodile, which has been, I think, we'll talk about Crocodile more, but I think it's gone a little bit better with the restriction list in general, which is really neat. And also, we do have, for top 16 on the Latin American side, we do have 5 Zoros, 3 Katakuris, 3 Newgates, 2 Trafalgar Laws, a Luffy, a Star Deck Kid, and a Magellan as well. So obviously, purple sneaks into a top 16 every once in a while and really sneaks in with just good tiebreakers in a 6-2. But we're going to go over a couple lists between both events, kind of even it out between the two. And we're going to start off with the first place list from the Oceania event. It is Dylan's Trafalgar Law. And I don't honestly have a lot to say about this deck. It's pretty standard for what we see for it. Pretty much 4 of these cards. The only difference is that running 2 copies of Nami from the star deck, which has the new TP promo as well. But just being able to move Dawn around is pretty fair for what it does. It makes sense too if you're playing cards like Nico Robin as well, that does use the Dawn ×1, so you do need a Dawn underneath it. I'm surprised you're not running any of the Star Deck Zoro as well, because those usually pair together very well. But otherwise, just a standard list with, and then your top end of Trafalgar Laws, a single Rad Beam because you can't run more, and that's about it. So congratulations to Dylan for their first place finish in this event. And then next up we have we have 2 different category lists from the Latin American event. So this first one is Andrés, who went, I believe it was 7-1, yeah, 7-1 with it. And then also we do have this one too. So by Sebastián. So Andrés' list for it is honestly a pre-starter deck list, which is interesting. I know that the starter deck came out for this region as well, because there was starter deck cards between some of the other, at least the other list that I have for Katakuri. So interesting to see that pretty much this is just a standard list before the starter deck. There's no starter deck cards for this one. Usually like Yamato and everything are in here. So we have this list, which we do have the addition of the arrow for this one, but we also don't have the any copies of the Yamato, which normally, we've been seeing a lot of play just because of, it's a 5/7 on curve for it too. But just kind of an interesting build for that one. So it could just be, they might not have just gone the star decks, but still been able to play Katakuri and do well. So for that one. And then the ad for Sebastián's list too is the Charlotte Galay, which isn't as popular. I don't see people use this card as much, but I do understand the need for just having a 2-drop blocker at times, and on top of the Brûlé. So a lot of potential for a blocker to be put out there, which is interesting. And then just a 2-3-3 split on the top end, and nothing bigger than the Charlotte Cracker. So none of the Tamagos or Operas or Katakuris. So interesting there. And then kind of like the same split between the two there, but this one including the arrow, which I really do like the arrow. I think this is a really strong card for yellow in general. So there we go there. So that is the list for Andrés and Sebastián. Congratulations for their finishes there. Next up we have for the Zoro. So we have for the Oceania event, we had both these players go 8-1 with the exact same list. So I'm not sure whose it was, but this is for Maverick, and I'm going to mispronounce this Hristijan's list for this one. They have the exact same list, the exact same 50 for it. So, but nothing that we haven't been kind of seeing generically for Zoro. There are like enough cards that you have some ratios and some card choices, which is neat. And so, Blameko is getting a little bit more popular as like a 2 of for some lists, especially if you're running the Whitebeard centric with Ezo and such. So that's helpful for you. Buggy, and then we're running what? Let's see. 13 events for this one. 4, 4, 1, 1, 1, 2. Yeah. So 13 events, which is generically where most people are sitting, somewhere between 13 and 15 for there. And then a little bit more aggressive with 2 copies of Magra for that advance. No 9-drop Newgate, no 1 of, as well as just kind of the Zoros, Marcos, and just kind of that as your top end. So a little bit, I'd say, more aggressive for the deck, but obviously very strong. And this Marco is still very good for you. He's fantastic for kind of what he is. And even if you don't play events, like just the fact that he's a 5/6 and recurring him is, your opponent will never want to get rid of this unless they're blue and they're able to bottom deck it or something like that. So anyways, that is the list for this one. Congratulations to both players for their finishes there. Then next up we have our 1 Newgate that we're going to look at. This is actually, I think we have 2 Newgates, yeah, right? Yeah, we have 2 we're going to just look at real quick. Both of these are from the Latin American event. So this is Diego's list, and then we also have the list here. So they're a little bit different on kind of like the top end and such. So this one is more of like straw hat for Diego's build, being able to, generically, we see Nami, we see like the Chopper, which is searchable. We see a couple of straw hats, including the Luffy, the Frankie, and the 5-drop Monkey D. Luffy. Obviously, Nami can also search out your Rad Beam and your guard points, which is really nice. And also the Red Hawk, so that's very searchable. And we have a little bit more of your 2Ks and Sanji and Brook. So honestly, pretty standard from what we've seen. Like even to like what we saw like set 2 Strawbeard, this is pretty much the same thing with just the addition of the new Marco, and that's about it. And obviously taking out the 4-drop Marco from there too, and the Thatch, which was OP02, but it wasn't being played as much in that one. So that is the list for the Newgate here. And then also we have this one, which is more centered again around. We were playing Ezo in the other one, right? Yeah. Okay. How could we not? But just, I don't know, generically just kind of a higher end. So we have more of the 4-drops. No Namis for this one. And we have a couple more events ones. So we have the Whitebeard Pirates as well as the Crossfire, using this to either, be a -4 for 2 on a character attack or helpful removal. So you can use Crossfire to give something -4K. And then use the Marco to get rid of it. So, and maybe some scenarios where you already had Newgate out, so you can get rid of something that way. So, and also 1 copy of Kingdu, which I still think like there can be some really successful builds of Newgate where you just play honestly just some big vanillas still, and it does well. So I don't know if that's still true, but it seems like it a lot of the time. But anyways, those are both Diego's and Charlie's list for Newgate. Congratulations for their finishes there. Next up, we have Anthony Liu's version of Nami, and we did have 2 copies of Nami top for the Oceania event. So if you guys want to check out Jonathan Meyer's list, it's here on my website. But we do have this one, and I think Nami does have a couple of good matchups, specifically against Yellow, which I know some people have been grinding a little bit more, even though Yellow didn't top for the Oceania event. I know just specifically even since the new Yamato starter deck is out that some people are on it, but it does have a lot of recursion in this build. And this one's super duper event heavy. Like, how many events are we running? A lot. Like, you only have what, 4, so 12, 15, with 17 non-event cards. So that's insane. That's insane for that ratio for. And there are a lot of ones that do draw. So we do have like Deathwink and Love Beam, which we're playing all copies of. We're also playing a lot of Bounce to Hand. So we have 3 Nojikos and also 4 of the Brick Fists. So that's very aggressive for that, those ratios for that. We do find that we can find, play Buggy for it, which is great. We don't play like any copies of Belmir, only 2 copies of Zeph too. So Zeph is a little bit expensive for what he does, but he does do what it, very strong. Being able to bounce stuff back, including like the Kaya and everything else. But really interesting to see just how low to the end and honestly how cheap this build is too. I'm pretty sure you're gonna build this deck for pretty cheap. Probably the most expensive card is Love Mellow, which since it's a starter deck card, there are some chances for it, but I think it honestly has come down in price too. So for what it is, blue is getting a little bit more popular. So I know some staples like this one might be a little bit more expensive, but that's what we got. So, but just how it is, we only have 2 copies of Rubber Band of Doom, and we are playing the Buggy, and we have how many targets for it? 4, 8, 11 plus 4, 15, and then 19. Yeah, 19. Yeah, is probably pretty good. I used to play this deck a lot, and I think I was playing like 15 targets for Buggy, and he'd whiff all the time, like a maddening amount of time. So there's that. You also have to recognize that this is a card that can sack the bottom cards of your deck, which normally in most decks doesn't typically matter a lot. Sometimes it comes up, but this one it will 100% if you're trying to get to 0 cards in your deck. So I do think that's there. The rough part is I think this is a deck that can really crumble against Zoro sometimes, based on like if they can just jam a bunch of 5Ks against you. You have to be kind of careful about it. Newgate, I think you can get, like, being able to get rid of their tempo as Nojiko's and the Brickfist. I think that's very strong for you. Since a lot of people are just trying to play Atmos on curve, and you're like, nah, put that back. It really does slow down your opponent. So, anyways, this is Anthony's list. Congratulations for their finish. This one, and then next up we have the Star Deck Luffy. So this is Ricardo's list here. We have been seeing Star Deck Luffy jump in a little bit. My still opinion is that I think Zoro is better, as much as I dislike saying that because I love playing the Luffy leader. But because of that, I think there's Star Deck Luffy's a really good deck in this format and just gets like a little bit outshined by Zoro, so not as many people are on it. But there are reasons to run this list, and I do think generically this is just a Zoro list that we switch with Luffy. I think there are some ways to make the list more centered to Luffy, and I'm not immediately seeing it from this one, but I do want to go over this one. So we do have a good amount of like the removal from this one, with the idea that we are playing the Nico Robin, we are playing the Gordons and Otamas to help things get into range from there as well. No copies of like the 4-drop Brook, which I know has been moderately more popular in a couple decks as well. But we do have a good amount of event cards, but not as many as I think, right? We're only playing 9 copies, so it means that we're only playing 2 copies of Buggy. We're not going to see, get that hit all the time, so I think that makes sense for not running 4 copies of him. 2 copies of Luffy, the 1 Newgate, and I think Newgate makes a little bit more sense in Luffy, so that is a correct choice in my mind. But yeah, this is really just a big toolbox deck. We are playing Nami and Izo and Buggy, so a little bit greedy with that too. I think you're going to whiff more often with this build too, but that is what it is. So anyways, this is Ricardo's list. Congratulations for their top 16 there. And then next up we have the Eustace Kid. This is Flavio's list as well, and this is, generically people keep coming back to this and keep playing this. This is strictly, not only is this strictly just the Supernova build, this is only set 1 cards. There's only set 1 cards and Chopper. This is like the only exception, which there could have been other 2Ks that you added from other ones. So like this is like the minor upgrade, but generically everything else is just running cards from the Star Deck and set 1. So just the power of this deck is very good. The power of the 8-drop is very good. I know people like Basil's been, I think, on the rise as a very strong card for a lot of matchups and archetypes as well. We do have 2 copies of this Yamato, which I think this one's fine. Still, like I still don't know if like this is a really good card or not. And the fact that like you play it and your opponent's like really worried about it, but you usually still have to generate a lot of resources and put it into this card to be able to get that double attack banish to really hit. So sometimes that kind of outweighs the benefit of what it actually does if you have to kind of like waste 5 cards or like 5 Dawn just for the effect. But sometimes you like make your opponent like discard 5 cards in the other way, and that feels very strong. So I don't know, it's definitely a good card. We also aren't playing like Momos in this build for any of the Land of Wano cards, which is a little interesting, just only using the Bonnie for Searcher and then trying to supplement it with Killer and stuff. We're also only playing Beige and Killer for blockers for Captain Kitten. And we also have the 7 cost, which I haven't seen this one in a hot minute. I think this one's been pretty much out of vogue for this deck, which is just kind of like on the not very popular in the meta anyways too. So that's an interesting pick for that one. And then 4 Punk Gibsons, which is obviously a very strong card. So anyways, this is a list here. Congratulations to Flavio for their finish with Star Deck Kid. And then we do have a Charlotte Linlin, and this did get a couple cards from the new set, but only the Yamato for this one. Honestly, this is a really interesting build, as we'll see, because we don't see any copies of Charlotte Cracker in this one either, which is normally a staple for Charlotte Linlin, especially since you can use its leader effect to sometimes take a card from your life when you're at more than 3 and you just go down, so you can use that and then you can combo it with the Cracker for like a double attack. So interesting that that's not being added. We are playing Katakuri, which He's okay. I still don't know how I feel about this. I think Yamato is better because you are taking those hits early anyways. Katakuri is less so kind of interesting. But this 5-drop Yamato, very good. Love this card. 2, 3, 4 on the top end, and only Thunderbolt as event card. So no copies of the Sovereignty or the Arrow, which I feel like you kind of need a little bit of that because they're great for counter power, and we are kind of a little bit more on the defensive side, and they also just have kind of really good triggers. So like if you just have extra cards in hand and you know that you're going to take damage, then you can use that for that. But obviously Thunderbolt is a fantastic card to be putting into our life, as well as the Shirahoshi, which we're putting 4 copies of. So even if we draw that, we can put in life with Linlin and get some really free cycle, which is really good. So anyways, we know this deck has been doing okay, and I like Linlin a little bit more in Katakuri as well, so I'm happy to see it finish. And congratulations to Terence for their finish with this one. Next up, we have Sam Bradbury's Crocodile, and we've been seeing definitely like Crocodile get a little bit better as we progress through this meta. It's been popping up a little bit since the restriction list. This is a more unique build than I've seen from a lot of other people, so it's just kind of more of the vanillas being implemented for it. So we do have like 3 of the Mocha, 4 copies of the Gecko Moria, and then also 3 copies of both Mihawk. So the 6/8, which again, I love the 6/8 Thatch in a lot of decks, and just the fact that we are a leader that we have a minus Dawn effect, and usually when I play this deck, it means like, yeah, sure, we get the tempo by doing the -4, but that's harder to make our cards a little bit beefier in the deck because of that. So being able to have like this 4/6, like just having like a 6/8 that's on the board that's a little bit hard to remove, I think is that helps you kind of capitalize on that as well. So, but then just kind of the generic bottom end, I think it's found like Missile Sunday is a very strong card for this deck. You just have to have Broke's Work as our leader effect, so we can get either like an Overheat back, we can get a Love Beam, or even a 3000 World. So that draw in the late game, this is such a good card. So there are a lot of ways for people to get around the on KO though, so it's not guaranteed, but they have to kind of answer this, which is really great. We are playing also 4 whole copies of Soga King. And he's good on tempo as well. The fact that he's only a 6K is a little rough because we do have a little bit less flexibility with our Dawn at times. But there's also like times where you can just like put 4 Dawn underneath it, attack with it, then use the Crocodile effect to use the -4. So you get rid of the Dawn you're going to use anyways and kind of do that. So just being able to something to sink Dawn into is fine for what it is, and that you can return your own cards as well. So if you need to, I don't know, just get a card back into your hand. Like let's say you play Mihawk on curve earlier just because you need a body on it. You can attack with it, then you can return it to hand and get some cycles, so that's kind of nice. And we will have a good amount of cards that are kind of dead in hand since we are playing 3 copies of the Overheat and 3 copies of the Love Beam, but I don't know. It's really cool to see Crocodile getting some play and doing well. It was my favorite deck in the Star Deck meta like almost a year ago, and I think it just kind of got outpaced by like how good the OP01 cards were for every other color essentially. So but I think the deck is cool, and congratulations to Sam for their finish there. And then to wrap it up, we do have a Magellan list. So this is Eduardo's list here, just sneaking in 16th place for the Latin American event. And I do play some at Magellan, and sometimes it does feel very good. Just really depends on like how often you're able to see this on curve, and like seeing a second one on curve is great. And the difference between seeing like this in curve and like a 10 drop on curve is that you get like a couple more draws to find that card, which is really strong. But this is a really great deck. We also have like this whole menagerie of these Mino cards. So normally I will say like playing Saudi is like a trap unless you're playing against like Zoro and they don't have like Marco. Like if you play this when you have 3 Dawn and they're going into 4 Dawn, like this can help you clean up a little bit, but at the same time like there's a chance that they just be like, oh, okay, well, cool, you played your Saudi, and then I'll just play Marco, get rid of this, and I did like I don't know what, you saved 1 Dawn playing your Mino Koala, but then you discard a card, which is usually not worth it. So we also see like the Uta, which is getting a little bit more popular, especially since I think the Dofi list and OP04 is definitely going to be running this in the film package. We have X-Drake, which is one of my favorite cards in the game. Just like the flexibility of being able to be a 2K, but also you can play this out and make your opponent discard a card, which is powerful in the right scenarios. We have our 2 copies of our Kings, or our 3 of our 6 drop, 2 of our 7 drop, as well as the Kaido. So this one's actually been a really strong card in my testing, in the sense like this is something your opponent doesn't play around as much. And honestly, just being able to have something with Rush that's a 10k, like it's really good value for what it is. So I do like the ad of it here. We have like 4 copies of Gum Gum Jet Gatling, which I do like having this one, since we will have a lot of cards in hand that are just unusable. Like look at this top end here, and then also like Amino Rhinoceros, being able to have that to get a plus 3k, and then also 3 copies of Hell's Judgment, which is a lot of people play around this card. If they see 2 Dawn Up, they know it's around, so you can't like sneak it, but it's still really good value. Minus 6k for 2 is great for you. So the only thing is like we don't see like a 2-drop blocker, which you normally would see in purple, but I think that it's also, you can recognize like those cards are really easy to get rid of right now, and so they don't do kind of as much as they used to. So anyways, this is Eduardo's list, and that is going to be it for this video. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure to check out the deck list on Eggman Events, which is linked in the description, and appreciate all the deck lists from both sources. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.